So in other news that I've seen today, and it goes a little bit political, but we won't go too hard on that because that's not what we're about. The government have actually done a U-turn in the UK on, I'm assuming, partnering up with China in 5G with Huawei. Huawei? Huawei? Huawei. Huawei. And I just wanted to know your thoughts on that because I have no clue why we're not. Because annoyingly, I mean, I've been on Samsung mobiles for a few years now, probably 3 or 4 years. And my next phone I was looking at were Huawei phones. Yeah. So does this mean I shouldn't be getting a Huawei phone now?
Well, see, I've had Huawei phone in the past. My wife's got one currently. They're fantastic. The issue with the network gear, basically, they make the best networking gear, particularly for 5G, as far as I understand. Which is why the UK was going to partner with them. And as far as I know, a lot of our telecommunications stuff is already on it. I may be, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we currently use a lot of their stuff anyway because it's good stuff. I think my opinion in it, a lot of this pressure has come from the US because the US, with the tensions between them and China, are sort of moving away from a lot of things that are manufactured by them. I think that their justification is that the head of Huawei has some sort of connection with the Chinese government, so they're basically saying that it has the potential to spy on the citizens of another country. And with the phones that they manufacture, they've so in a way forced or not forced maybe, but as a result of the pressure that the US government has been putting on Huawei as a company, or US companies generally with China, Google has withdrawn its services on their phones. So all newer phones use their own Huawei OS, and their own store and things like that. You can still, I believe, get the apps like Facebook and those sort of things if you want it, but Google services aren't available on those phones. So that's the sort of danger that you would have as such. If you got one of their phones, you may be limited. It will do everything you want it to do, but it may be limited in the future in terms of services and updates to Android, because Android is a Google-owned business. So yeah, I think their approach has been just to create your own operating system, and if you buy their phone, you will be using their product in the same way as if you bought a Nokia in the olden days. It was just Nokia software, and there wasn't that sort of shared software that we're used to now.
Right. I mean, I think also the 5G stuff isn't necessarily just for people with mobile phones that want to sort of look at YouTube. I think 5G was going to be, I mean, apparently integrated into every single sort of business and hospital and power station and everything like that. So that potentially, I mean, Huawei say that they're a private company and they've got nothing to do with the Chinese government. But obviously, that's not what they might have been told to say by the Chinese government. So if you were to let Huawei in, they'd be able to access every single facet of British life. I mean, including some nuclear power stations. I mean, although I think they're already doing that with the Chinese anyway. But it is interesting that it's Huawei, because obviously Google and Facebook have been doing some very dodgy things and mining data, and I know all this GDPR stuff recently has probably come from out of that. So it seems strange that it's Huawei is the one. I mean, and also we've got lots of other problems with China to do with Hong Kong at the moment as well. China are the second biggest economic power in the world. So it does seem. I agree with you, Matt. I think it is more because Donald Trump doesn't like China that perhaps we've come out a bit more, because they said it's gonna put everything back years and years, and also they won't actually get rid of Huawei till 2027, 7 years time. So
it's very odd.
if Donald Trump doesn't like China, he probably won't like you then, Matt, because you've just bought a new phone which is Chinese branded.
Yeah, exactly. But just my final note on what we was just talking about. As Mark said, I think the way I look at it, it's very odd in that you got these huge American businesses that have are integrated with so many services now, so many different areas of life, so many people use them, and they spy on you constantly and they retain information from you constantly. And there is documented evidence that, say for example, you download an app that may be completely innocent, as you think it may be, that changes your face or whatever it may be. A lot of those apps take information from you, whether it be location data, whether it be access to your camera, and all of these different things. And there are certain companies out there that aggregate that data, and what they then do is create a sort of a fingerprint almost of you as a user. So they know where you work, they know where you live, they know where you shop, they know who you bank with, they know where everything regarding your life does. They have your face quite often. It's insane, so it's not whether I was going to say it's not really a thing of whether you agree with it or not, but just to give an example of, there are so many services out there that do exactly the same thing, and TikTok at the moment is coming under scrutiny because of the way it accesses your data, and I think it does do certain things which are a bit suspicious. But it's one of those things that it seems like a government or people at large are fine with. Well, it's okay if they do that to me, but oh God, we don't want a mask made by a Chinese company because that's really terrible. Well, you're really sharing your data, regardless, and that unfortunately is whether you agree with it or not, it is almost a part of using these free services that that's your that's how you pay. It's with your identity more than anything else.
Yeah, if it's free, you're the product.
Yeah, exactly that. But in regards to, I bought a phone. I'd for many years been an Android user. I convinced James to move over to Android, and James moved over to Android, and
then he left.
So yeah, I bought. I was having a look on the market, and I'll be honest, I'd had my phone for 4 years. Absolutely loved my iPhone, but the comparison of price and performance just didn't add up staying with Apple. I've got a very good deal with my mobile network, so they won't offer me a decent upgrade. I don't want to pay a load a month. I'd rather just buy a phone. And I was able to get it's a company called Realme, which isn't one I'd heard of before, but they're basically it's a Shenzhen sort of manufacturer in China. That's their sort of trading name as such. It's a UK model. When I signed up for the phone, it's called the GDPR stuff, and that it's made for the UK market. But it's got sort of an 8-core processor. It's got a 64 meg camera on it. It's got 4 cameras on the back, 1 on the front, a 90 hertz screen, 128 gig storage, which is expandable as well. It's phenomenal, and it cost me 270 quid with it SIM free. So in comparison to looking at an iPhone or whatever for a similar cost, even looking at Samsungs and things of a similar cost, you're looking at almost 4 times that. Whereas that does everything that you could possibly want. So it's fantastic.
Do you think there's enough knowledge from these smaller companies? I don't know the size of Realme, but
No idea.
we looked at this probably a couple of years ago when I was looking at upgrading, and I didn't even realise like the laptop that I use, Asus, they do their own mobile phones. I wouldn't have even known that if I hadn't have stumbled across it. And it's when you start looking into actually buying a phone outright rather than and the ones that you always think of are Samsungs usually and iPhones, and they're extortionate on buying them outright. We had a friend of ours who used to always do that, didn't he? Every time
Yeah.
he'd buy the new model, just so then he wouldn't
£800 or whatever.
800. I mean, yeah. I mean, he had more money than sense, but I hope he's listening. He's but yeah, it's. I think people are starting to be a bit more clued up now on these sorts of things.
It's the first time, I think, and I've always been interested in the sort of technology side of things, but this time I think buying a phone, and I was able to do it in this way. I bought a phone in the same way as I would a computer. And the spec of that phone is the same as a laptop, basically. You know, it's incredible what it can do and so on. But it was that, you know, I shopped around, I had a look, I knew what I wanted in my mind in terms of like what the base level performance on the base level of the services and features it offered. And yeah, that ticked all the boxes. But again, there was that leap of faith of, I don't know who this company is. I've never heard of them before, and you see on Amazon and that there are loads of different like no brand Android phones that you can get for about 50 quid or whatever. But these seemed like a decent company, and like the battery on that, I charged that up on Sunday, and today's the first time I'm charging it. It's incredible. And that's using Spotify, streaming music, or just using it normally. Yeah, amazing. Something like that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if shout out to Real Me, if you want to send us some free merch, then
nice. Yeah.
Please do.
Yeah.
We'll mention you again. And any other independent mobile phone brands.
If anyone else would like to give anyone,
if anyone's got any
free
free stuff that they want to send us,
we will mention you. I mean, I did mention Hovis earlier on, so if you get a massive delivery of bread,
send
just one loaf.
Bread.
Just one loaf.
Put in the chest freezer.